Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Somewhere Between. A great episode full of so many surprises. Like I said, yesterday's episode was very scene setting. It's like the first episode usually is just very heavy of like setting things up, but I feel like this episode was definitely big payoff of that. A lot of big reveals in it, like for instance finding out I was like, okay, it's just her that went back in time. I was like, it'd be kind of interesting if Nico had gone back in time with her, and it turns out, in fact, he did. It's just like, I appreciate how they did it, because it was like, you see Nico struggling, and I was like, under the water, I was like, oh, wait, did he go back in time with her? And it's like, he did. He ended up cutting himself free, so we're not really sure at what moment led to them, like, time traveling. We saw the light kind of shining down, and it looks like it shined down on him, but he pulled her up to shore. That's how she ended up on shore. I don't know, I didn't really give it much thought, just thought she landed on shore or whatever, like, after everything that happened, but it's like, he saved her life. But when she woke up, he was off getting help for her. But by the time he came back, she had already left. So I just thought that was kind of a nice, beautiful touch. And now both of the reality is setting in for both of them. They ended up running into each other. And now it's like she reveals to him, because he's looking like, whoa, Serena's alive. Wait, what? Yeah, but they found her body, and then like Laura, I was about to call her Julia for some reason. Laura's like, wait, what? Like, you remember? It's like, oh my God, thank you. Cause she was unconscious at the time, so she wasn't aware that she got saved, but she kind of flashed back to it when she saw marks on her hand. So, but what I really appreciated too was how, Laura's solution to this whole situation was immediately to go, hey, I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna change things. So what she does is she gets, Serena, she's like, hey, let's go to Hawaii for like 2 weeks. Not telling Tom, because, I mean, she leaves a note and everything, but she knows Tom wouldn't really believe her. Tom would try and stop her, in fact. So she tries to go to Hawaii and everything, even kind of helping the cops with the whole situation and being like, oh yeah, this, and this. There's a lady that's going to die here. There's a club with a name P. It's like, how do you know all this? Just trust me. I know. They're starting to kind of push her a little bit. She's like, do you know who my husband is? He's the DA. So yeah, let's just leave it at that. I'm trying to help and everything. But it does that beautiful thing, because that's another thing I brought up in the last episode. I mean, the series premiere was like, okay, so how does it work in this situation? And it is, in fact, like, no matter what you do, time will kind of correct itself, in some shape or form. So when she tries to go to Hawaii with Serena ended up having an allergic reaction. And because she had an allergic reaction, they had to turn the plane around. So it's like fate course correcting itself. So that was immediately telling us ahead of time, like, now it's like she was told you can't like run away from fate. And she tried to run, but it's like, now you have to face this head on. And it's not even just there. We learned so much else. We learned, and I didn't put two and two together because I didn't realize at that point, I didn't reflect on it. Like the picture they saw in the tea shop. Laura ends up going there because she's like, I need to go to help. So she goes to find the tea lady. We find out her name is Marjorie, but the place is burned down and stuff. And she sees a picture there, and she unfolds the picture that shows Marjorie. And at the time, I didn't realize it was Susanna, and then unfolded even more and saw a picture of Nico. She started looking into Nico and stuff, finding out the connection between him and Danny, them being brothers, and then the fact is that he testified against Danny, and this is a case that Tom's working on and everything. And she goes visits Nico, and he informs her that Marjorie actually died 5 years ago in a fire. It's like, wait, so we're dealing with ghosts now too? What? Not only time travel, we're also dealing with ghosts. That took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting. I was like, what? Why are you there? Why is that so important to you? How do you fit in all this? It's like, she was Susanna's mom. She wasn't Danny's wife. She was his fiance. But then it seems like there was something between Nico and Susanna, like whether it was at the same time she was with Danny or whether it was like beforehand. Like, we learned all that last episode. So obviously Nico's having a hard time struggling with all this, but Laura's like, there's no accident, there's no such thing as coincidence, everything is connected. Obviously you came back with me for a reason. What do you think that reason is? And then Nico's like, well, the fact of the matter is, like, because of Serena's death, it led to his brother being executed, because Serena's death gave them the excuse to kind of push through their initiative to be like, oh, let's bring, the death sentence back and everything. So if he helps Serena from dying, then he can, in fact, at the same time, save his brother. There's even a point in the episode where he actually goes and meets with his brother. His brother's almost like, why did you come? Whoa, is something with mom? or Ruby, like it's something wrong. It's like, no, they're fine. It's like, then why took you so long to come here? He's like, it's one of those things where it's like life kind of takes its time, and like, it has those moments where life just kind of makes you, something happens and it wakes you up. So he comes to visit his brother, but it does seem like he's still keeping his brother at a distance, because he's like, his brother's like, oh, you're gonna try and keep them from killing me. He's like, I'm gonna do my best. It's like, oh, does that mean I can get out? He's like, Lo, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We don't want to let you out of here because you might hurt someone else by accident. So it's like his brother realizes, like, Nico still thinks that Danny is guilty, but he's like, it's out of his control. He didn't really know what he was doing and stuff like that. So, I mean, because at the same time, like, once again, Nico has to feel guilty over this, especially seeing his brother in this situation, knowing his brother gets executed. It's his fault, especially because that's probably that's definitely how his mom sees him in that way, because it's like last episode, and we see her kind of reiterated this episode, is like, take back your testimony. You tell them you didn't really know what you saw. It's because it's like, I mean, we don't know like what's going on between conversations between them, like subsequently since the whole like trial and everything. Like, I don't know if they're actually 100% on good terms or not, because once again, she might blame him on some level for his testimony being the kind of nail in the coffin for Danny. So, especially when like he's starting to ask all those questions at the beginning of the episode, like, what day is it? What day? She's like, are you drunk? It's like, I knew I couldn't count you. Why am I even bother wasting my time? I should have known better. So, kind of puts them in odds a little bit at this point in time. So, then also the same thing kind of applies to Tom and Laura, because Tom's like, what the hell were you doing, Laura? Just leaving all of a sudden? She's like, I had a dream. I was a little freaked out and everything. He's like, I would have stopped you. And so now she's kind of got in her head, like, I'm not going to tell you. But Tom's like, you can tell me anything. You realize that, right? She's like, right. And so she lies and says she's doing work, when in actuality he calls her later on, get in contact with her, and calls, her office. Now he knows she lied about that and everything. So also with everything playing out the way it did at the end of the episode, I'm very curious to see how this will play out. Because I mean, obviously they got it in their head, like, we have to stop this whole situation from happening. So they're trying their best. There was actually, like, the person she was thinking was actually a bad guy, was a killer, turns out to be a cop, because like the cop's there because she, sent in the tip and everything at the beginning of the episode. So we see some changes there. They ended up being at the wrong place, and they eventually end up Laura ended up going to the right place, because it's a club known as Rain, but the R was kind of messed up, so it looked like a P. What I also appreciated was Nico's situation where, like, he's following the other girl that they thought was a target, and then, like, the guy's like, why are you following my girlfriend? And then Nico kind of starts crying. He's like, she looks so much like my dead sister. I'm so sorry. I thought she came back to me to tell me she's okay. And he looks away. Nico runs out and kicks him in the chest. I was like, did not expect that. That caught me completely by surprise. But, Laura ends up getting attacked by the killer, because he's like, how did you know I was going to be here? He's attacking her, and she bites him. He ends up stabbing her, like, so she gets a little messed up. Nico shows up just in time to help fend him off, starts kicking his ass a little bit, but he gets away. And the girl is saved and everything. She's like, okay, don't worry, I'm going to get cops. I'm like, okay, they saved her. I was like, that's good. That's a good step in the right direction. I was like, it's going to bring up a whole bunch of questions when they ask later on. It's like, she's like, these people saved me. But then immediately she's running. I was like, wait, I was like, no, it can't be. And there's a cop walking up, and I'm like, oh, don't tell me it's him. Like, he circled back around, and he dressed up in a cop uniform, which is like, how did you get that so soon? So either he is a cop, which wouldn't make sense in that regards, like how he would know so much ahead of time and stuff, like have access to certain information like he does. So the fact is he circled around in a cop's uniform like that makes me think he is a cop. So he was probably wearing that specifically because after he killed her, he was going to come back, he was about to go back on duty and then come back to the crime scene. As a sociopath, he's admiring his work by kind of investigating the case. So that's what I'm thinking. Not unless that was something else entirely. Maybe he's not actually a cop, but he was going to come back to the crime scene just as a cop to kind of, bathe in like his work. So I'm like, it's another example of time course correcting itself. Yes, like things went about differently, but you still got the same result. So this going forward will put them even in a harder perspective of like, you have to fight even harder, because it's like, even when you change something, like fate is all, it's actually kind of interesting when you actually think about it. And I didn't even bring this up last episode, but Devin Sawa, you know, the first thing I ever saw him in was the first Final Destination movie. So it's kind of like you see a very similar thing in this of like, yeah, you might have skipped over death this one instant, but now it's kind of circling back to strike you another way. Didn't even cross my mind until just now, until I started really talking about that more. So that's just kind of interesting. It makes you wonder, did they cast him specifically for that? Kind of a little wink and nudge to, toward, you know, Final Destination, which isn't it to kind of undermine his ability as an actor. They're probably like, yo, he's the best choice for this, but it makes you wonder, does that help influence? I'm like, maybe, I don't know. But that's definitely going to be interesting going forward, especially because the captain who works at the police station asked her, she's like, whoa, the fact is, you know, all this information, you know about the Sapphire and everything. The person, either you're in contact with the killer, or one of our cops is talking. Nico is an ex-cop, so it's immediately going to be like, you're her source. How are you getting the information? And we know that Nico has a friend on the force too, so I might put some like sway there. But it's also going to put them in a bad position on many different fronts. With the cops are going to be looking at like, okay, you interfered with our crime. Like, we were set up in the wrong place the entire time because of you. You could have, you know, Mrs. Price, you could have been killed. Like, you're out here playing vigilante and stuff like that. And Nico, I should arrest you now. I kind of feel like that might be the direction that's going. I mean, Tom's probably going to start worrying. I think it's a situation that she can't hide from. Like, they're going to have to report the body and everything. But I think it's a situation where it's like, you can't avoid Tom finding out he's the DA and the police are going to contact him, especially because it is his wife that's involved in all of this. So, and it was almost not serendipitous, because that's supposed to be something good. It kind of coincides. It was kind of an interesting moment of like the moment like the killer killed a girl, like a thunderstorm kind of strikes and Serena wakes up. So it's almost kind of like, you know, it kind of representing the fact is that, boom, one step closer to that fate. But this also puts, because the fact of the matter is, it's actually kind of, I mean, we actually think about it even more. This case is kind of what pushed, well, they had already done coverage on the previous victims before, but this particular case is what got Laura kind of even more so in like, hey, we're going to catch this guy mentality. So this is how he got her, like, she caught his attention in the first place. Like, oh, you're going to try and catch me. And now he meets her in person. So she inadvertently put herself on the same path anyway. I mean, now Nico's on that path too, because he's seen both their faces. So, and he knows there are people after him. So things won't necessarily, I mean, because that's also a thing too, because they did change fate. It does bring up the question too, once again, a domino effect. Will this mean that there will be new victims, or does this mean he will go about different ways and get to certain victims either sooner or later than he initially did in the original timeline? And we did kind of get a time frame that has been 8 days. They went back 8 days. Once again, last episode I brought up the comparison. I thought it was kind of interesting because the original Korean show this is based on, the mom went back 14 days. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. So, like I said, a very stellar episode. Surprised me on so many levels. Like I talked about that last episode, and just for them to reveal it, I was like, oh yeah, in fact, Nico did go back in time, which is crazy. He tried to explain it to Jenny, but she kind of didn't really believe him. He ends up mentioning, I mean, that's something that's probably going to come up too, is there's stuff in that 3 months that we don't know about, especially when it comes to Nico, because he started bringing up some stuff about Jenny in that 3 months. It's like, we don't know about what happened to Nico in that 3 month period too. We know what happened to Laura and Tom. They weren't always on the best of terms, but that's about it. I mean, the thing is, maybe they will be able to work around it to save Serena, but maybe it's a situation where it's like they're going to have to keep pushing further and further. Like, I mean, the fact of the matter is that girl still died the same night that she did in the original timeline. So who's to say it will be a situation where they can save Serena and then her death keeps, you know, once again, Final Destination type of thing where it keeps getting prolonged over and over again. I'm sorry. And then it's like they have to kind of like, I don't know, the timeline goes beyond where it did for them before. You know what I'm trying to say, like, that it goes beyond her original death date, you know? Like, I don't know if it's going to be like that or not because of the way it's set up to automatically be like, nope, Like, your time will happen that same day. It will circumvent in some shape or form, you know? So, also the fact is that Nico has caused some trouble this episode, obviously, with the whole kicking a dude in the chest, going after his girlfriend, getting involved with this case and everything. Plus, there's a whole situation with that guy who tried to kill him. This was before he knew about the time rewind and everything. And he ended up punching the dude that attempted to kill him, so that's definitely going to earn him some trouble going forward. So I'm kind of interested to see, like, whether, like, what stuff on Nico's side of things is going to change. Definitely going to be some heavy changes on Laura's side of things going forward with this too. Once again, I brought it up last episode. It seems like we are going to be going in that direction of Tom being like, what the hell is up with you? You going out here doing all this? What is up with you? You having this dream? And he told her, like, oh, you can tell me anything. And the moment she does, he's going to think she's crazy. It's like, oh, I'm going to have to keep Serena away from you type of thing. Just got a feeling that's where it might go. But, I mean, we would just have to wait and see. Like, I am very intrigued to see where it goes in the next episode. This episode also kind of showed Laura's resolve, too, as well. Because it's like, she has already stated it. She's like, I mean, she said it last episode. She would do anything, whatever it takes to save her daughter. She kind of reiterates it this episode by talking about her resolve of being like, knowing that one person will have to die if it means Serena being saved. And she's like, I would, no matter who it is, I will, someone that whoever it is will have to die if it means saving you, even if it's me. So that's already setting the tone of like, if there's a life that needs to be taken to make sure that Serena's isn't, then she'll be willing to make that sacrifice. So already kind of setting that ahead of time. So, you know, that's already being set up. So, you know, when it comes to the crucial point in this series, that we'll know where she stands, or at the very least, most likely get an idea of where she'd fall in that dilemma. But I mean, I think that's going to be ultimately what it will be of like, what choice will she make? Will she be willing to sacrifice anyone if it's for the sake of her daughter? Because I brought this up last episode too, like, it's most likely going to be someone of consequence within the show. It's going to be someone we're going to get familiar with or know. Maybe it's be her husband, maybe it's Nico, maybe it's going to be Danny, you know, Nico's brother. So a lot of that's got to be, you know, kept in the back of your head when you think about that going forward with the show. At least, you know, because we see that she is kind of in a way reckless. You know, even Nico kind of calls her out in this episode to the point he's like even putting a tracker on her, as we see. So, I don't know, like I said, just something to kind of keep in mind going forward. Do keep in mind that the show is permanently on Tuesdays. It seems like the Monday thing was just for the premiere. For now on, it will be on Tuesdays at its current time. So just keep that in mind going forward. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, love life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.